So our first speaker of the night will be Julia Parker, and she has worked in both the public and private sector in community development and impact investment after stints working in the U.S. Senate and with the city of Omaha. Julia started a nonprofit career at Building Bright Futures, a nonprofit incubator supporting organizations focused on educational outcomes for children experiencing this violence of poverty. Julia also served as executive director of Omaha Small Business Network, OSBN, a community development entity focused on microlending. She went on to start a nonprofit strategy consult, consultancy, Park 4, Park 4029, through which she works with emerging loan funds such as Boston Ujima Project. Julia has a passion for investing in BIPOC entrepreneurs and business owners, which she did as a director of economic development at Dorchester Bay Economic Development Corporation, a Boston area CDFI. Julie previously served as management director at the Crane Institute for Sustainability's Intentional Endowment Network. Julie went to serve as a senior investment manager at Connect Humanity, a nonprofit lender focused on digital equity. Julia currently serves as Chief Lending and Impact Officer at Appalachian Community Capital, a CDFI intermediary operating in 13 states. Julia holds a BA in political science and a BA in international relations from Creighton University and an MS in urban studies from the University of Nebraska at Omaha. Julia has an MBA in Boston College Carroll School of Management. And with that, I'll pass it to Julia. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I always say I can never live up to all that. I don't know when I had the chance to do all that, but I appreciate being here tonight with everyone. I have been working with Boston Ujima Project over the last few years. I'm on the investment committee, which really allows me to see Ujima investments, to see from the UGBA process towards becoming an investment. So tonight, I think the best thing that I can do is walk you through the methodology that we use to evaluate investments, and tell you a little bit about that. Some of it's kind of dry. I'm going to make it as interesting as I can. But it really is evaluating businesses where they are, and really getting to that yes. That's what I like to say, because we are here to work with small businesses, to make equity and debt investments in small businesses, working in and around the community. And that's really one of the key purposes of being on the investment committee. And it really is something that I am fortunate to be able to say I do. So let me walk you through a few things. So once a business is slated for investment, you come and you talk to me. We will talk about certain areas of due diligence, and I'll break those down. One of the first areas of due diligence is business owners. I look at the owners, the believability of the business, rollout expansion, what kind of supports do you have, what kind of operations do you have, what's your financial acumen. Then I take a look at community engagement, looking at Ujima covenants and beliefs and approach to community engagement. So that is community voice. What are you in service of? How does your pricing reflect the community in which you are in? How How do you address the holistic nature of community equity? And do you have a meaningful connection to community groups and agencies? Want to hear your community feedback mechanisms, and then how you plan to address some but not all community equity components. Really trying to gauge where you are within the community. And I think that's something that is unique to UGMA. I think that's something, I don't want to stop that. I think that's something that makes UGMA really stand out. I think when I was putting together some of the due diligence metrics, I really had to think about what was community centric and what I thought would work in the UGMA environment, which is very much a holistic approach to the solidarity economy, to wealth generation, to generational wealth building. So that's where some of these are rooted in. The next thing under the risk framework and methodology is the business model. What are your sources and uses of funds? Do you have a clear budget and rationale use of funds that's manageable and has a realistic approach? What's your revenue model? Do you have diverse revenue streams? Is there a solid framework for generating income and a yardstick by which you can measure long-term profitability? Those are extremely important when we take a look at businesses. Also cost structure and financial performance. So do you have a believable performance? You would be amazed at how many businesses do not. They have not developed a pro forma and have not gotten to the point where they are taking a hard look at their finances. And so that's something we decided that we would help with. Really sort of working with BCPO, working with Sadie, and really sort of coming up with reasonable financials. We know that it doesn't all end up pretty in that first year. We're not expecting $1 million in revenue in year one. That's generally not going to happen. And most of the time with businesses that we're supporting, you're not even profitable in year one. We're looking at year 2 and 3. This money is giving you access to capital that you would not otherwise have been able to obtain. And so through that vein, we think of this as a financial journey. So that's really how I'm thinking of the underwriting process, going on that financial journey with that small business owner and really starting to develop time-honored and how should I put that? Realistic finances. I'll say that. The next thing we look at is the UGMA portfolio. How do you measure up to the rest of the UGMA portfolio? What's the size of your investment? We just finished up in a large investment, one of the largest we've done with Bay State Banner. But how does that compare to the rest of the UGMA portfolio, which is restaurant heavy or retail business heavy? What's that type of investment? Is that debt or is that equity? In the case of Bay State Banner, that was an equity deal. Then the impact on the existing UGMA portfolio. This is really important when you're an investor looking at your overall portfolio. So I want you guys to think of yourselves as investors in UGMA. Many of you are, I'm sure. I see some familiar names. Shout out to Sharonda, one of our investment committee companies. Love working with Cupcake Therapy. But it really matters where you put your money in terms of an overall portfolio health. Are you investing in a lot of restaurants? Are you investing in a lot of retail businesses? What happens when a catastrophic event affects that market? Or what happens when a pandemic hits? You know, what is the financial viability of your portfolio? And those are things that we think about in the risk assessment. What's the duration of the investment? How many years are we going to look for repayment? Because that's something that I appreciate about Ujima is they're very good at talking to investors and giving them a realistic expectation on when to expect payment, when to and in what form, right? So that's something that I think is very important. Next is legal and compliance. And then we have internal controls, financial review, age and sophistication of company, contingent liability, founders, executive management, a full executive staff review. We are Corey friendly, but we do run a background check on members, not to exclude people, but to know what we're working with and how we can better support that business. So that is the breakdown on the methodology. The investment committee meets every few months when there's an investment coming up. You'll see, I think we have one coming up, Kidogo TV. I'm not sure if that's announced. I'm not sure if I should have said that, but hopefully that's already out there in the world, Yusuf. You guys know what's coming down the pipeline. Is that a thing? Is that out there already?
Probably not, but it's fine. You know, think of move on.
Okay, all right. We'll work on it. We'll work on it. Yeah, by the time it gets published, it's out there. So those are the things that we look at. I want you to know that the investment committee is made up of very passionate and community-centric small business owners, small business managers, nonprofit organization leaders, and we really look at businesses from the holistic approach and try to be as caring and as sharing as we can be. Okay, so I think that's it for me. I know you guys are taking questions at the end. I have to hop off. If anyone has any quick questions, I think I have a few more minutes left. But otherwise, I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to my spiel on due diligence, how we evaluate businesses, and what we do on the investment committee.
All right. Thank you so much for inviting me to this very meaningful event. It's good to see everyone. And as Marie introduced me, my name is Suntae Kim. I'm currently here at Baltimore. But before joining Johns Hopkins, I was at Boston College for several years. And during that time, I got exposed to Ujima. I became a big fan of Ujima and participated in various member teams. But then I had to leave, and Nia invited me to join the committee, the Community Standards Committee. So I've been serving for the committee for about a year now. So first of all, maybe I'll start talking about what Community Standards Committee does. For those of you who are not very familiar with the whole complex structure of Ujima. So Ujima can be many things for many people, but it's essentially maybe one essential part of it is, as Julia said, it's an investment fund. And also, it's creating a coherent group of local businesses that support uh, Boston communities. And so, in order for these businesses to be invested by Ujima, they first have to be the member of Ujima Business, a Good Business Alliance, which I believe Collin will be talking about after me. Um, and what we do at the Community Standards Committee is essentially assessing or evaluating applicants to the UGBA, Ujima Good Business Alliance. So thus far in 2023, we met at least, I think, several, 6, 7 businesses who applied to be part of Business Alliance. And I think we said yes for many of them, most of them, and we are still in the process of making decision for a few of them. So this is what happens in the community standards committee meetings. We meet once every month, and when we meet, the meeting starts from the business owners or the founders' presentations about their business for about 10 minutes. And they introduce the business, they brag about how awesome they are, and they talk about their fit with Ujima. And then we go through their application altogether. And during this time, committee members ask questions about specifics of this business. And then after that, the business owner or the founder leaves the room, and the committee members discuss among ourselves to make a decision about that particular business. So that's essentially what happens. And you might think that this is just a rubber stamp and we just say yes to everyone, but that's definitely not the case. And it was actually one of my surprises when I joined the committee. So there are a few cases. There are many cases who were really welcomed and whose application was really stellar, and we didn't really have any qualm about them. But there are some cases where we asked about the lack of some evidence in the application documents, or there are some cases where we questioned the fit between the business and Ujima. So for those cases, we do extensive discussion that actually spans not just a week, but more than months. So we discuss these businesses, and we discuss what we need as an additional evidence, or we discuss the appropriate procedure to gain more information about each of these businesses. So the whole process is actually quite rigorous, much more rigorous than I expected in the beginning. And I really appreciate Ujima, the committee members' hard work, and also Ujima staff members' support. So when I was asked to participate in this reflection, I was asked to talk about 3 things: highs and lows and insights. So in terms of highs, I think it was really amazing to get to know a lot of amazing local businesses in Boston. I was really amazed by the story of Shanti, is one of the restaurants who applied to be the Business Alliance, and the history behind their family business. And also, I was really impressed by the story of um, the Bay State Banner. It's a historic newspaper company that has a long history in the region, and their presentation was very inspiring and impressive. So getting to know and getting to learn about this amazing businesses in the area is definitely one of the best, one of the highs of being part of this committee. The lows, I should say, the fact that I cannot participate in person. So these committee meetings actually happen in person, and sometimes these businesses come, especially if they are restaurant businesses, they come with their own food to the meeting, which never affects the decision, but which always makes good impression, right? But because I'm remote, because I currently live in Baltimore, I cannot even smell them, and they look so delicious. And I see people enjoying the food, and all I can do is just seeing them enjoying it. So that's definitely the low of my experience last year. Lastly, the insights that I found really interesting from working in the committee is the fact that there's very rigorous and serious. Yes, please ship some meals as a compensation. Um, yeah. So what I found really impressive from serving in the committee is the fact that there is a very rigorous and lively discussions from time to time, especially when the applicants show lack of fit with the Ujima. And that makes me think of that. And in those cases, typically there's a very lively discussion, very intense discussion among committee members. So one example that come to my mind is that there was a business who applied, and it was pretty clear that the business is currently local, but has a very ambitious plan to expand and scale up across the region and across the country. In those cases, it is wonderful for the business to expand, but at the same time, the fit was not very clear because Ujima is really focused on local and thriving local communities in parts of Boston area. And in those situations, some committee members raised the red flag, some committee members didn't, and that led to very lively discussions. And it made me think that Ujima is really balancing these competing demands. Ujima needs to grow by being inclusive, by adding more members to the business alliance. But at the same time, Ujima needs to be authentic, right? Ujima needs to maintain strong connection to its core values and core mission and try not to make that, co-opted or compromised. So that tension, the tension between those two demands always exists, and it manifests very strongly in the community standards committee meetings. And I think the Ujima staff members and the committee members are doing a really good job in terms of balancing the tension. But at the same time, the tension still exists and it plays out. So that was, I think, the insight that I wanted to share with the members. And yeah, other than that, please spread words about Business Alliance to your favorite businesses in your area so that they apply to be the member of the Business Alliance. And yeah, and thank you so much for listening to my reflection, and thank you so much for your time.
I don't feel like I'm the most prepared this evening. But I guess, the goal is just to speak about the Ujima Good Business Alliance, from your perspective. And, what I feel like it is to me is a collection of amazing businesses in the Boston area that are all dedicated to community and giving back, whether they're a restaurant or a local tourism company. I don't think it matters. I've also throughout the last year realized the amazing synergy between a lot of the alliance members, and have really dedicated, you know, or my goals are to do what I can to support not only businesses across the Boston area and neighborhoods of color, but specifically, you know, alliance members like Comfort Kitchen and Fresh Regeneration, who I love so much, and are thinking about all the time to figure out how I can support them. Um, I'm not somebody who can pour millions of dollars just yet into those businesses, but I feel like every dollar counts. And I feel like, you know, when we're talking about community, anything that you can do to support your fellow alliance members, it really matters. And so um, I think even in everything that I think about doing, you know, with Live Like a Local, uh, it in the sense of having events or just wanting to grab a bite to eat, showing up at Comfort Kitchen with friends, with anybody that I possibly can, just to let them know, you know, that we have amazing restaurants within the Boston area, specifically in neighborhoods of color. I'm so proud of everything that Comfort Kitchen has been able to do over the last 6 months to a year, and super proud of Fresh Regeneration and everything that they're doing. I'm seeing them catering everywhere. And so being a part of the Creative Business Alliance has just been an incredible opportunity to get more connected with local businesses, so that they know what I do and I know what they do. And any chance I get, I'm going to do whatever I can to support them. Um, and I also look at it as an opportunity to figure out what are my standards as a business, you know? When I do start to grow and I start to hire people, what does it look like to make sure that they have fair wages? What does it look like to make sure that I'm being inclusive of everyone, regardless of, you know, what they identify as or who they are or what their preference is. And the Ujima Project and the Creative Business Alliance has helped me think about those things in more detail, when I start to hire people, that I'm respecting who they are. I'm also making sure that they get paid what they deserve. And those are all things that I believed in, but never had that on paper. And so when I was, you know, brought on to be a part of the alliance, I had to really speak to the group about, do I believe in these things as well? And are these the standards that I want to live by as a business owner? And I definitely do, but I didn't, you know, wasn't thinking clearly about how much those things actually matter. And so it's just been an incredible opportunity to be a part of a collective like this. And it shows that we're all looking to support each other. You know, I can call Biplar, you know, on a whim, knowing that every night is packed, and say, hey, I got a few friends. Is there anything you can do? And multiple times he showed up for me and made sure that I can show my friends this restaurant, even though there's like barely any room. And that's the type of community that, you know, really makes me feel good. It makes me feel welcomed, and I know that I belong, when it comes to the Ujima Project and the Business Alliance. Um, the highs and the lows. I've had some really great highs last year, and that was, you know, due to Ujima Project and BACMA, you know, sponsoring the tours to Martha's Vineyard for community members. And, you know, we know that this is the Boston Ujima Project, but they did see the value in what I was doing to bring community members out to Martha's Vineyard. As we all know, sometimes Martha's Vineyard is a place that is a fairy tale to some people that come from Roxbury, where I came from. And maybe they've been there once or twice or hadn't been there in years. And twice last year in May and September, we were able to bring community members out to enjoy the island, to learn about the indigenous and African history of it, to support other businesses, Black-owned businesses, BIPOC businesses on the island, anywhere from traveling, to taxis, to restaurants, to clothing stores, to photography studios. Um, and the support that I got from Ujima Project to make that happen, and just guiding me through it, and also paying me for organizing it as well. I think it's one thing to help you organize it, but then to say, hey, we're going to pay you what you're worth because you put in the work and you worked hard to put this event together, and we're going to be there, for you. And that type of support is not anything that I've ever had before, since I started this company in 2019. And so to the Ujima Project and Beckma, I can't thank those two organizations enough for being so supportive and kind of helping me figure out that there is room to grow with, this company. Yes, I want to make sure that we circulate dollars within communities of color. But I'm also looking at the rest of the state of Massachusetts and where else can we visit that have Black and BIPOC owned businesses that we can also go to, and getting community members out of the community to go visit other places that some have never been to and some haven't been in years, like I spoke about before. And so, the staff and everybody on this call and Nia have been just a super, really great support system for me. And I think that that's the great thing about being part of the Business Alliance, truly. Um, and so when I look at the lows, they're also kind of highs as well, because they're also helping me grow and realizing, well, what are some of my weaknesses and how can I get better? And so thinking about, where I need to be money wise and thinking about my finances and working with the BCCOO and BCOO, excuse me, and working with Sadie, and trying to get that together. It's an uphill battle. That's why I say it's a low, but I also feel like it's a high because now I'm learning like what it takes to reconcile my numbers. What does it take to figure out like, no, I can't go and spend all my money, in the community and not have enough money to actually run the business. I do have to figure out what my numbers look like. And, Sadie called me emailed me the other day just to stay on me and say, hey, do you need some help or how are you doing? And I was like, I'm doing terribly. I'm going to need to get on a call with you again. And like I said, the support systems, and being able to have the pro bono work because I can't afford to have an accountant. I can't afford to have somebody walk me through these things. Um, and so just being a small business, really trying to figure out like, how do I grow? How do I start to hire? Knowing that I have these weaknesses, but also really believing in my mission, has been absolutely incredible. And I would encourage, as many businesses in the Boston area to do what they can to be a part of the Business Alliance, to go through that process to figure out, what are your values as a business? And if they believe in what you're doing and they believe that you're a business owner that believes in those values of making sure that you have fair wages and that, that you respect everybody regardless of, who they are, those things come first, and then they can get to, helping you grow. And so I can't thank them enough, and I'm just honored and super grateful to be a part of the Alliance. If there's any questions, I guess I'm done rambling.
Thank you, Collins. Yeah, if there's any questions, please drop it in the chat, or if we're able to take some too. Actually, maybe are we able to have people just say the questions out loud?
Oh, can you hear me now? I was
Yeah,
speaking for myself. I'm sorry. We can open up the questions for everyone, for Suntae as well as Colin. Um, yeah. Thank y'all so much for sharing. I learned a lot, so very grateful.
Thank you, guys.
I have a question. because it doesn't seem like okay. Suntae, I was wondering, what was the like hardest decision um for in to like allow somebody into the UGBA? Like what was one of the hardest ones that you remember experiencing?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I don't think I can talk about the real names of the businesses because I think that we're still trying to make a decision. But as I mentioned briefly during my reflection, there was one case where the business is very innovative and has a very good prospect. And if I was just an investment manager or a loan officer in a bank, I would have invested in that company. But the problem with that case was that the business was really trying to expand and scale and didn't really talk too much about its roots and the local roots and its commitment to the communities that Ujima is serving. That made us hesitate, and that led to a quite intense discussion between, one was some of us were saying it doesn't really the value is not aligned, but others were also saying we can't be too exclusive. We need to expand and we need to be more inclusive. So that, and both sides were making very sound arguments. And that was the case that I found most difficult. And I think that tells a lot about, I don't know, the challenge that Ujima is facing and like any other organizations, alternative organizations would face.
Thank you, Sante. I have a question for Collins actually. What what was the most interesting part of Martha's Vineyard when you took the people over there?
Um, I think the most interesting part is just getting the chance to see people enjoy their time, to be able to have a chance to relax and take a day trip away, from the community for a second and, go to an island that they probably didn't realize was in Massachusetts, or just heard a lot about and never had a chance to go to. And then realizing that there's all this history and culture there as well that's connected to the Boston area. There were people that were talked about on the African American Heritage Trail that were Bostonians or that lived in Boston, and that did great things. And so getting a chance to, shop at local businesses and having a chance to relax and kind of walk around the island, getting on the steamship authority, like all of these things to me were, you know, I've done those things before, but then when you realize there are people that haven't gotten the chance to do that, and you were able to provide that opportunity, with the Ujima Project, it made me feel really good. And it made me feel like we need to do this annually so that more people from the community get an opportunity to do it. I guess I just really felt grateful for the opportunity to do that for community members.
Thank you. Yeah, and I also heard a lot of great things about that trip. I wish I was able to go. But I've been to Martha's Vineyard a couple of times, and it's amazing. If anybody hasn't gone yet, please go. And I'm sure Collins will do another tour this year, so that'll be a good opportunity to do that. And if you have any questions, please yeah, let us know or put it in the chat. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Hyo. I'm not a member, but I'm like Suntae Kim is my mentor, so I asked him for joining this workshop, and thank you for having me. So my question is like, do you have any goal for like especially for this year, like year 2024, or like do you have any change you are planning to for this year? Like I just asked to all all related to Ujima Project. Thank you.
I have to say that I don't know too much about the strategic plans of Ujima. So if there's anything that Mary or Yusuf that you can share, that'll be great. But as far as I know, I don't think we are planning any big change in the community standards committee.
I guess I'm just looking forward to growing as a business alliance member, and hopefully, figuring out how to, continue to do the tours, in Martha's Vineyard. I'm looking to hopefully maybe do a tour of Nantucket to visit the, African American Museum of African American History, and do the Black Heritage Trail there, and try to figure out how to curate a tour, with the president there. So, yeah, and I'm looking forward to, growing and thinking about like what it looks like to get my finances in order. And like I said before, just figuring out how to expand within the community, and to hire community members, preferably young people, to do tours of the area, figuring out what those systems look like. So I'm thinking finances first and learning how to properly get that in order. And then the next thing is like, what do systems look like, and just doing more events. So we're doing an event on, we're doing an event on the 3rd, that is connected, to the Nubian Square tour that I do, called Once Upon a Time in Nubian Square, with Marlon of Afro American Academy, who is a great collaborator, civil engineer, who's really looking at cultural hub spaces, and has really studied the redlining that has happened within communities of color, and the impacts that still exist today. So I'm really looking forward to doing a tour of Nubian Square with him, and also doing a workshop on redlining at the public library in Roxbury. So just trying to expand in that way and do more collaborations, working with Hello Black Trivia. Trivia looks a certain way in a lot of places. And so to be able to collaborate with Jeff and Pops, Eric Estevez, who created Hello Black Trivia, in connection with another brand that I'm working on called Black Dialogues, to really promote diversity and inclusion within the beer culture, which is like primarily a white space. And so there are a lot of breweries and distilleries that are popping up in the Roxbury area. And so we don't always feel included and welcome in those spaces. And so I want to start to create events within these breweries, these spaces, to bring Black and BIPOC, people in the community out, to enjoy these spaces too. They're in our communities, and so we should be involved and enjoy those spaces as well. And so I'm looking to do different events and just start to do more collaborations, and get myself out there, regardless if I throw something and nobody shows up. I'm just going to keep trying, and keep thinking of clever collaborations with people who do have followings, and just continue to push my mission of supporting community and diversity, and just the things that I enjoy doing. And hopefully people will want to explore those events with me. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm super excited about what the future holds in 2024.
Thank you. Sharonda had a question actually. She said, will that tour be repeated after March? Which tour are you talking about, Sharonda, please?
I think she may be talking about that. So if she is, yeah, I would love to do it again, with Marlon, I think. And there are other areas as well, other neighborhoods that have obviously been plagued with redlining. And so the West End is one of those areas that Marlon is focusing on too. And so the West End is also connected to Beacon Hill, that has a lot of Black history. And so we're looking to kind of go around the city and kind of talk about those things and bring them to light, and have these workshops where people from different communities can kind of talk about, how it's affected communities of color, and how it still does today, because it hasn't really ended. The effects haven't ended. And I think people think because it happened 50 years ago, or that the laws, are in place to protect people 50 years ago, there are still other ways around that plague these communities. And so how do we discuss those, those issues, and come together as a community to figure out how we can, can stop, what we think is going on. I think gentrification is also another issue too. I think to me it's the new redlining, to be honest, from being, real about it. But yeah, I think it's just really great collaboration with another Black business, somebody who I really believe in, and somebody who I think is doing great work. And so we're really hoping to get a decent turnout on Saturday. But again, Sharonda, we're hoping to do it again, hopefully in the next month or two. I think it was a little short turnaround as well for people to figure out what they wanted to do for the weekend. So I realized that. But we wanted to get it out for Black History Month. And so I think hopefully we'll definitely do it again.
The one exciting thing we have that's going to happen is we got these stickers for Ujima Good Businesses. So you guys can hang them up in your places so people know that you are certified. So this is the new development that we have. Thank y'all so much. We are ending early. We were very rushed at the beginning, and so I'm very grateful for y'all moving forward with us. So we were able to let Julia, Suntae, and Collin all get a chance to speak. So thank y'all for coming. Next week we have our Ujima Wednesday. It will be back at Black Market. It is our new member orientation, and also for returning members. So if you want to get a refresher of what it means to be a part of the Ujima ecosystem, feel free to come in person at Black Market or join on Zoom. Yes, thank y'all.